This weekend saw the second and final round of the Etchells British National and Open Championship, run by the Royal Corinthian Yacht Club. After the first 4 races last weekend, Ante Razmilovic's Swedish Blue held a seemingly comfortable lead, but as we said in our report, this is yacht racing and anything could happen. Well, it did. On Saturday, in a light and shifty northerly, the race committee managed to get in 3 races, in light of a no-wind forecast for Sunday. In the first race, the fleet got away from a line slightly favoured to the committee boat end. The light northerly was shifty in direction and fluctuating in pressure, and it made for a very tricky race. Most of the fleet went left initially, but the shifts and changes of pressure made the first beat like a game of snakes and ladders, as first one side then the other was favoured. The ebb tide was also flowing strongly across the beat from right to left, and this would catch out some of the racers. The 2 leaders from the first weekend, Freelance and Swedish Blue, were locked together, but were well down the fleet. At the first mark, it was Matitude Do which led around ahead of White Pointer, Elvis and Bedrock. Behind them, many of the fleet had overstood the mark because of the tide and were reaching into the buoy. As they headed down the run, Freelance and Swedish Blue were still together, but back in the bottom half of the fleet. At the front, Graham Sunderland, driving Elvis weekend, had got past Matitude Do, and by the leeward mark was in the lead. Swedish Blue's usual downwind speed was not on display today, and they were still back in the pack, along with Freelance. Up the second beat, the shifts and variations in pressure were still making it difficult, but Graham Sunderland favoured the right on Elvis, and led the fleet around the top mark. Giving chase was Matitude Do in second, with China White a close third. Down the run to the finish, Elvis extended at first, but then increased pressure from behind brought Matitude Do and China White up to her. Elvis held off the challenge though to cross the line ahead and take the win. Lawrence Mead's Freelance got back to 7th by the finish, but Swedish Blue ended up 10th. The line for the second race was biased to the committee boat, with a strong tide running along the line, and Swedish Blue was caught barging by China White. The light and shifty wind and the strong cross tide again made for another tricky race, which Lawrence Mead in Freelance made the best of, to lead the fleet comfortably at the end of the first round. Second around the leeward mark was Take 2, with Bedrock in third. Swedish Blue was again back in the pack, as the leader after the first 4 races saw their series leads slipping away from them. The leaders favoured the right-hand side of the beat, with Freelance keeping an eye on Take 2, Bedrock and Elvis, which was holding 4th place. Freelance led around the final windward mark and set off down the run to the finish. Near the finish, Bedrock and Take 2 were side by side and closing the gap on the leader. One final jibe and the 3 leaders crossed the line, with Freelance holding on for the win. Behind them, Swedish Blue was in the crabgrass, and it was to get worse for Razmilovic, as they were subsequently disqualified from the race. Maybe they should have taken a penalty after their start line infringement. The start of the third race saw Razmilovic fighting back and nailing the favoured pin end. Take 2 couldn't make the buoy and tacked to port, but had to take a couple of sterns. Most of the fleet headed off on port, with Razmilovic looking to be in control. But within a few minutes a large right-hander saw the fleet flip to starboard, with Swedish Blue now to leeward and hoping the breeze would go left again before they got to the top of the beat. It did go back a bit, but not enough to return Swedish Blue to the lead. Take 2 and Hex rounded the first mark together, with Freelance not far behind in third, along with Matitude Do, and then came Swedish Blue. Matitude Do went on to win this race from take 2. Freelance took third, with Swedish Blue fifth, to round off a really bad day for Ante Razmilovic and his crew. Sunday dawned with sunshine but no wind. The race committee took the fleet afloat and waited for wind, but it was not to be, and racing was finally abandoned. So what started really well for Swedish Blue last weekend turned into a nightmare in the second half of the series. Lawrence Mead's Freelance ended up taking the championship by 3 points from Ante Razmilovic's Swedish Blue. Richard Burrows' Matitude Do rounded out the podium in third, another 2 points astern. Take 2 and Elvis ended up 4th and 5th after some good results, but not enough consistency to make the podium. The final round of the Cowes Keelboat Solent Series was run by the Island Sailing Club this weekend. A great turnout by the daring class for the last weekend of the season saw 16 boats take the start and head off east on the reach to the first mark of Norris. Dynamite got the best start and soon had her nose in front of the pack. Behind her, Finesse was holding off Dauntless, Defiant and a gaggle of other darings. Dynamite led around Norris with a nice gap to Finesse, Dauntless and Defiant. From Norris, the next leg was a beat across the tide to Flying Fish, before a run to Dax and another beat to Flying Fish. When we saw the fleet again on the final run to a buoy off the green, Dynamite had done well in the tricky conditions to consolidate her lead. She went on to take a 2.5 minute win ahead of Dauntless in second and Defiant in third. The lack of wind on Sunday meant that racing on the final day of the Cowes dayboat season was abandoned, so that's the last we'll see of the Darings, Dragons and X1 designs until next year. So that's it for this week and for this season. We've been delivering weekly reports since Easter, but now we take a break from on the water reporting for the winter. But we will be bringing you special reports. Watch out for a special on the rebuilding of the 30 square metre Arida coming soon, and an interview with Mark Turner on the rise and rise of OC Group. And if you're in Cowes, check out our iZone screens in your favourite pubs, where we'll be bringing you action from events around the world. And finally, don't forget our photographic competition with some great prizes for your best photos from the Solent this summer. Check out Cowes online for the details. See you soon.